Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today I want to talk about a folksy, not really truly scientific, but certainly one of the ways that I understand and embody DNA. I look at my body as a collection of parts that come from my parents and my grandparents, and while this is not totally true, while obviously underlying DNA, affects phenotypes very differently, I do see my body as a kind of cobbled together set of components of my parents and my grandparents. It's rather curious to look at genetics as saying, well, this will affect your nose, your fingers, your toes, the amount of body hair you have, all this kind of stuff, growing beards, this kind of thing. But actually, there's some truth to that. There's obviously some blending, but the way that dominant phenotypes appear to work in my somewhat naive understanding of genetics is that I can look at my body as a combination of my parents and my grandparents. It seems strange that occasionally when I look at my hands, I see aspects of my father, I certainly see aspects of my maternal grandfather, and, these kind of things are very curious as, one looks at one's body, particularly through aging and these kind of things. And it makes me feel happy, actually, in a strange way, to think that, my fingers and my hands and my face and my head and, my general physical appearance is a strange combination of bits and pieces of those that have come before me, but also potentially represent the future of another generation of strange-looking creatures that are in some way genetically connected with me. I'm feeling this in particular because part of my travels is going to be meeting second cousins and third cousins who are related to me in some regard, but I've never had any contact with previously. And in this light, I will be able to examine them relatively closely and say, aha, this is this component, this is that component, this is the other component. And also, it's a sense of familiarity where ultimately there is no nurture familiarity, there is purely nature familiarity. And this is presenting me a variety of different ideas, all folksy, none of them truly scientific, about how you glue people together with the various components. And some of these things, when you look at second and third cousins, third cousins in particular, you're really only dealing with small brushstrokes that could be familiarly related. There's so much additional DNA between you and them that really you're looking for just small items that could be familiar. Thankfully, my Ashkenazi heritage, there's a lot of shared genetics. My grandmother and grandfather on my father's side basically, within a few generations, inhabited the same area. There is a common genetic theme through this, which is very interesting. Extends what I would call 16K worth of shared genetic information in various sections. In some cases 10K, in some cases 8K. But beautiful shared stories that are on both my paternal grandmother and grandfather's side, indicating some shared ancestor, potentially, like I say, 9 or so generations ago. And these kind of elements actually I find really very fascinating associated with genetics. I spent about 2 years going through my genetic heritage, particularly on my father's side, to try and connect folk that had been dislodged during the Holocaust and various family connections. I've not been particularly successful with that. I think it's a genuinely difficult problem that many Ashkenazi folk have to suffer through. But what it did enable me to find was, like I say, these second and third cousins that I never knew anything about. I knew that they existed somewhere out there, but I never really knew who they were, and they never had personalities. And what's particularly curious through this is because most of the correspondence has been electronic, in fact, exclusively electronic, with all the people that I'm going to be meeting through my travels, I don't have a sense of who they are as people. I really only have a sense, like I say, of these kind of nature building block components. But the nurture element I'm going to find very fascinating, no doubt. This has been a relatively ramshackled short funk, but I wanted to put the ideas out there for folks to listen to. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.